Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers, knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodu Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the Eko greeting tradition. The Three Wise Men, Arometa, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. We are here again and we are as excited as you are seeing our faces. And we're also expecting and knowing fully well that you're on the other side, not just watching, but ready to join the conversation. This is your program, SOUQ Pulse, where we settle in and look at businesses across Africa, Asia, and Europe and see how good they are doing, who is affecting who is making the profit, who is losing it, who is producing more, who is not meeting a quota when it comes to OPEC, whose policies are working, whose policies are not working, what can be done. In all this, we know is a race. Whether you like it or not, somebody is winning, somebody is not doing well. And for us here in Africa, we look for better ways of telling our people the truth. We need to run this race. And now, in part of this race, where are we on the track? Are we doing okay? And in everything, how is it affecting the ordinary citizen? His business, his work, his job, his family. Can he stand in the morning and say, yes, let's look up to something good? And here in SOUQ Pulse, we have no other thing but to join our parent organization, SOUQ News, in giving you positive programming, and we'll tell you we can do better. My name is John-Rogers Chuks, and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. I am not here alone. I'm still with our own learned one. Someone we learn from on a regular basis. He's tried his best to run to other African states, but will say no. Go as far as you want, we'll drag you back. You're welcome, sir.
My pleasure here always.
Someone that sees us would think maybe, hey, the bond is beyond this place. Just before the cameras rolled on, we were having some discussions, not for the cameras. Maybe after a while you get to hear of it. So, Doctor, you are welcome. Today we are going to talk not just based on what we are talking about today, but something that stemmed from what we spoke about yesterday. We're looking at clusters. We're looking at clusters, industrial clusters. How is government trying to make sure these clusters grow? How are they being formed? So most of them came through private businesses, industries growing in different locations. And now, how can they better? How can they be better? How can they not just be profitable, but grow beyond that? So some other things came up through that discussion. And Dr. Idahosa is going to do justice to it today. So, sir, we are back to that discussion that almost didn't let us leave this office yesterday.
Oh my God.
And it's very exciting. Today we are looking at producing industry-ready graduates and industry-targeted research. That's kept us here yesterday for a while. And we'll say, hey, let's bring it up. And that discussion we're having, let's have that discussion here today. It concerns you, it concerns me. If we need to move this country forward, we must produce something. And if there are people that must produce something, it is those particular graduates. It must not be it must not be university graduate. As long as you have a skill and you start and finish the learning, you are a graduate in some sort. So it's this particular people. Now we are focusing on tertiary institutions, polytechnics, universities, colleges of education, technical colleges. We graduate over 500,000 every year. Now the basic question is, this particular set of human beings that have been given a certificate, of what impact are they making in the industry?
Well, it's a very big question that we will not be able to finish and answer today, because every time you speak about some of these issues, you see some blame games. And that's because some people just don't want to accept some basic elementary truths. We are having so much of paper qualification as a country. And recent study shows that the problem I think it was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that the problem in Nigeria was not so much of unemployment, that the issue were the unemployability of graduates.
Okay, the unemployability of those carrying the certificate.
Yes. So you have certificate on the one hand, and then, of course, you don't have the requisite basic experience to start the work which you are certified to do, because the word certificate comes from to certify. So which means if I am a certified mechanical engineer, for example, it means that I have the competency in that trade.
Okay, sir.
To do what every medical...
Can I stop you?
Okay.
You mentioned something now that most times people shy away from. You just called it a trade, which means whatever you're learning, whatever you're being trained at, is primarily a trade.
Yes, that's what it is.
But now we have a divide between the trade and what is being taught.
Yeah, this is where, for me, is issue that African scholars need to sit around table and have this conversation. Somewhere you hear people talking about, oh, people are not understanding because we are teaching them a foreign language. Oh, if we were going to teach mathematics in Igbo language, it will sing very well. But like I said to people, it's neither here nor there. The basic problem is the fact that African scholars themselves need to understand the basic philosophy around education. That seems to be missing. While we are trying to compare standards with what Oxford is doing, Harvard is doing, Yale is doing.
Whose standard?
Who set the standard? This is the issue. And we tend to forget that education primarily is to help you master your environment.
And this environment differs.
Yes, this is a point. You see, because nature or God has placed us in different geographic locations. And those geographic locations has created some genetic makeup in us, which are not in other people. And so what addresses those genetic factors and your environment? So you can't find it elsewhere. This is a point that is missing in our educational institutions. So we seem not to even understand the principles or the philosophy in the first place. Let me give you a very funny example. Today we have a UNTE, they call it that qualified students to either go to the university, polytechnic, or tertiary education. How have we done with that program today? What we're doing today really now is that if you pass very well, you go to university. If you don't do so well, you go to polytechnic. And if you go further than not doing so well, you go to tertiary education.
The College of Education.
The College of Education. Now, this is a misnomer.
Then the person that went to College of Education will now graduate and come to
teach the person who should become a first class. So you can understand the challenge with understanding the philosophy around even the institution itself. Where other people are harvesting their very best into the education sector, we are harvesting our worst into that sector. Probably it's even getting better now that they're actually asking for 5 credits. Before, if you have 5 credits, you go to the university. If you have 4, you can go to polytechnic. Now, if you have 3 or below, you go to College of Education. Now, this is a misnomer. And those who manages our educational system need to fundamentally, first and foremost, sit down and agree and understand the principle behind education. That education is not necessarily a Western idea. Okay. It's a transfer of knowledge from one generation to another.
The next. Okay. Not just transfer of knowledge, which includes skill.
Yeah, that's what it is. So what you are saying is that what this generation is able to do, they teach it to the next generation. And of course, the next generation has the opportunity to improve on what the other generation has done based on the new findings or new understanding.
And pass it across.
And pass it across to the next. So it's a continuum. So we started a study, we do some here, and then the next generation of intellectuals in that environment say, oh wow, this is what our parents saw. But there's more to it than this. And then improve on what their parents saw. And then you see this technology transferred from one person to another. Now take for example, Sony.
Okay.
Who set out in Japan, because Japan love rice so well, to produce rice cooker so that it can be very easy for Japanese
people,
so that they can cook rice because they love rice so well. So Sony didn't set out to go produce electronics. The production of electronics was just a byproduct of a failed project. So this is where Africa needs to learn. And until we get to this understanding on what the philosophy of education is, we will still be struggling with this challenge of being able to address issues that affect us.
Okay. So if we go by this analogy, then it looks more like Africa has been busy over the years producing workforce for the West.
Yes. That's what it is.
Okay, because we have not really sat down.
Yes, to think about ourselves,
educate ourselves on how it affects our environment.
Yes.
Prefer solutions for our environment.
You know, recently I was having a conversation with the Director General of the alternative medical practitioner, alternative medicine.
Okay. Now, why do you even call it alternative medicine?
Well, medicine, that's again...
Medicine is medicine.
Yes, it's a Western coloration because, of course, you said theirs is orthodox and our is alternative. Now, but he was telling me that something that he got to know, or that he already knew, having been to India and all parts of the world, learning and studying. And he said he visited the Oba of Lagos one day and he was talking with him and said, look, do you know that Every sickness has its cure in that environment. And he said automatically the Oba concurred with him and said, yes, that our people here, they have sugar issue. But there's also a leaf here.
That take care of it.
That once you have that thing, just plug the leaf and put it in your mouth and the sugar will come down.
But we all prefer the capsule that is packaged somewhere.
Now, this is the real issue.
Knowledge lost.
What is the pharmaceutical or the pharmacology department of our university in Lagos doing to research these leaves, to turn them into treatment for diabetics? And this is where the disconnect is.
Okay. Now let's come back. Let's come back, because if we let this discussion continue in this light, we will end up calling some names. Now let's look at MBTE, the Board for Technical Education.
Yes.
We have NUC, the Nigerian University Commission.
Yes.
Now we also have Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Environment. We have Ministry of Health.
Trade,
we have all of them.
Yeah.
Now, why is everyone running solo? Because this affects everybody. If each of the ministries, where you know that these major courses are studied in these universities, we have MBT, we have NUC. Everybody is creating an agency to service a particular group, and nobody is working together to make sure that the graduates coming from a specific discipline have a direct connection, whether be it with the ministries or be it with the industry coming from that ministry, or be it with an allied agency within. The student is on his own. His is just to go to the school, get a certificate, and come out. At no point in time can a ministry, let's say Ministry of the Health Agency for Automobile, tell you, okay, we have this amount of students graduating with a degree in automobile coming from Nigeria. They can't tell you that because there is no connection.
You know, the challenge here, if I may say, is like what Miles Morrow said in one of his work, that when the knowledge of a thing is not known, abuse becomes inevitable. This is a problem. Now, the universities are supposed to raise up managers who manages people with skills to do job. In my Public Administration 101, you have those who are in the line and those who are in the staff. Now, those in the line are those who have been trained with technical skills to do some certain things, to build houses, to build equipment. And that's the real purpose. Now, those who are trained in the university are supposed to be managing these people, to coordinate them for effectiveness. Now, what do you see in Nigeria? Even we take this conversation to the National Assembly recently, that we are arguing that whether those who are graduate from Polytechnic, HND, and graduates should cross same level of cadre. This is abuse of not knowing a thing and abusing its purpose. That's the point I was trying to make when I was doing this analogy in terms of how we even recruit and select people. So you're seeing a situation where a National Technical Board for Education, who are supposed to be training people with skills in education or in any kind of training, you acquire or you live with three basic things. First is knowledge. Second is skill. And third is behavior change, attitude. They call it KSA. Knowledge, skill, and attitude. So when you go through training or any formal education, these three things are supposed to happen to you. You have information about what it is. Then, of course, you develop ability and then the right attitude to deploy it. Now, how is this supposed to happen? Those who go to university are basically to have a grounding of how these processes work and then get the polytechnics to feed them. And in some clients where this thing work well, is actually a ratio of 1 to 15. In some places, it's like 1 to 150, where you're having one graduate managing up to 15, 20, 30, 50, depending on the way the system is structured. But here, we have mixed the point. And I say, yes, they both did 4 years in the university, but that is not really the point. They are doing different functions within the economy. And if we don't recognize this reality, it will be very difficult for us to achieve the purpose for which these institutions are set up.
Okay, let's backtrack. Let's backtrack. Years back, before we had this craze for certificates, we had a whole lot of our parents who had city and guide. Oh, I hope I remember that.
Yes.
They had some technical certificates, and they could beat their chest that what that certificate was meant for, they could get those jobs done. And a lot of them got this certificate on the job. They were trained and certified on the job.
Yes.
Now, why can't our universities start awarding certificates, diplomas to students that are on the job?
You know, you see, this is what I'm saying, experiences shows. You see, City and Guild was a certificate awarded by the UK, the British government, to their colonies. Because they understood the philosophy of education. They didn't want everybody to be a graduate. They knew that there should be masons. And those masons should be well trained to be able to do the work and do it very well, if they have to be competitive. They knew. So they put up that regulation that for you to practice a trade, you should be able to do well. Even in Yaba now, the secondary school in Yaba now that they are now calling Federal Government College of Science and Technology was a trade center.
Okay. Okay, that's the one close to the university.
Yes, it was a trade center. This was designed to train people technically on specific skills. That's how it started. Even Yaba Tech.
And at that point in time, they worked.
Oh yes, I knew of an auntie of mine who went to Yaba Tech in the early 70s to study tailoring and took it further abroad for industrial production in the US. But he earned a degree to sew cloth in Yaba Tech. Now, those trade courses are there, but those people cannot sew cloth.
They can't sew cloth now.
Now.
But they were sewing
cloth then.
Okay. At what point in time did this change? If you don't know where the rain starts beating you, that's where you have an issue. At what point in time did we start losing this? It might not have happened overnight, but there was a time when we started losing this.
You see, again, for me, and we can research it, it was good for us to have advocated for independence as Africans. It was a nice thing to do. Very beautiful project. We wanted to rule ourselves. But we have not studied the system deep enough to know how to run this system before we took them over. And like my lecturer used to tell us when we were undergraduates, that the nationalists were in a hurry to step into the shoes of the white settlers. So there was really no specific program. You see, it's one thing for somebody to see you sitting here now, anchoring this program and say, is it not just to talk?
Of course, yes, it's just to talk.
It's just to talk. But by the time you put him on the seat now, he will know that anchoring is beyond just talking.
It's still just to talk.
Yeah, but just to talk for a man with the ability. So you can sit there and say, oh, is it not the same thing? I see that happen a lot. I say, oh, what's pastor doing? This is not just to preach. Until you give somebody a microphone to come and pray. And then he will know that it's difficult to pray in a congregation and before an audience. You see, because when you don't understand the dynamics and how these things work or the fundamentals, you are likely to look at, commonize what was going on. So by the time we took over to run these things by ourselves, we started to run so many things aground. We were not cognizant of the fact that some of these things were designed to achieve a particular goal. And that's why Professor Claudacre, God bless his soul, said in one of his books that it was politics that actually underdeveloped us. Because never in the history
Whose politics?
of our conversation have we ever put development
Ahead of politics.
ahead of politics.
So
So
now, whose politics?
our local politics, because here the struggle now, after you have chased out the white man, we started to chase ourselves.
And which we are still doing.
And we are still chasing. And there's no end in sight.
Okay. Let's get back to our universities, our polytechnics, colleges of education, and let's get back to the industry. Now, we have a trend that has been ongoing for a very long time. There was what's it called? FUTO, the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, a state somewhere in Nigeria, had a yearly seminar sometime last year, and this question was raised. They were telling all past graduates, alumni association, people that came, dignitaries, they were mentioning amount of dollars they've gotten in research grants. So someone now asked, this research grant that you've all gotten, of what use are this research to industry? And there was an answer that most of all those research were majorly for whoever was getting them to get some promotion or get some doctorate or get some professor.
Not necessarily.
That was what was said.
Yeah. Apart from the fact that the research are helping them to get promotion, those who are funding the research from abroad.
On the other side.
Yes, of course, they have the intention. They know what they're doing. And they are very deliberate to study your market and know what to produce for your market.
Now, I don't know, on this other side, who is benefiting? The lecturer.
Oh, not the lecturer.
No, I'm talking on this other side. The lecturer is benefiting.
Yes, he just gets some money.
But on this other side, the person that is sponsoring is taking what you've...
It's not just the person sponsoring, the state is benefiting.
Which of the states?
The state of the where the fund is coming from. That's
what I'm talking. That's where I was going to. Now, you that has put the work and have gotten the money and have gotten the promotion, what is happening to your own state? What is happening to Kenya, Nigeria, your Imo state, your Niger state? I don't know if you know where I'm coming from. Now, wherever those grants are coming from, they take your research papers, they go out, they refine it, and they put it to work. And industries are happening, growing.
Let me.
And we are losing it on this side.
In 2015, when President Muhammadu Buhari came into office, and of course it took him time to appoint ministers, and in one of those sessions he was having with the permanent secretary. So each of the permanent secretaries were made to do a presentation to him on the status of things, where things were. And I remember in that particular, one of those particular meetings, while they were doing this presentation, the permanent secretary of Federal Ministry of Water Resources was doing a presentation And at a certain point, the president stopped him. I said, well, I feel that this presentation was not complete, because he remembered very vividly that while he was in Sandhurst, he stumbled into a research
far away in England,
that the British did on this Lake Chad basin, that the basin was going to dry up at a certain time. And that was in the 1970s. So he said he stumbled on it. So he called the attention of the then head of state, Olusegun Obasanjo, who commissioned that report be purchased and the further study be done. And they did. The federal government invested money, repeated study, and that result was gazetted.
Okay.
And that it was somewhere in the seat of power. That they should stop the presentation and go and look for that report.
It was somewhere gathering dust.
Gathering dust. You see, this is a point. Because some of us who are here, we're always thinking politics. We're not thinking development. Take, for example, all these issues we are talking about overbloated civil service, multiplication of duties and role among agencies, lack of synergy. Orosaye did a comprehensive study on civil service reform. Now, where is that report? It's somewhere in Abuja.
Head of service office.
Oh yes, this is an issue.
Also gathering dust.
Dust, because we don't know what to do with the results.
Okay. Before we find what we are going to do with this result, we are going to go on a break. Don't go anywhere. This particular discussion and topic is getting interesting. We'll get a bit personal. So you don't just listen and think we're talking about something that is up in the cloud. It concerns me, it concerns you. So hey, SOUQ Pulse will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Yes, hello and welcome back. It's still SOUQ Pulse, and we are discussing and looking at producing industry-ready graduates and researches that are targeted at industries. We are tired of seeing graduates leaving school and everyone carrying a paper bag or one form of bag or the other with CVs that they can't defend, walking the street. And employers bringing them in on daily basis and looking them in the face and saying you can't work here because you don't have what it takes to work here. Sir, let's look at this other story. Once upon a time, we had issues with wheat. Not this present issue. There was a time we had issue with serious wheat and the prices of bread. Then President Obasanjo said, let's start cassava bread.
No, that's Goodluck Jonathan.
Goodluck Jonathan, thank you. He said, let's start cassava bread. Research was done on cassava bread from several universities, down to the one in Ibadan. And not just research was done, successful research was done, both for flour, both for machine. We woke up one day and wheat started coming and everybody forgot about the research. What happened? Is that the way we treat possibilities, or we just like staying in our comfort zones? Now again, wheat is almost tripling in price. Everybody's shouting bread cost. How can we look at our own indigenous research and follow it, see it through, adopt it?
You know, I read a book by Dr. Miles Morrow, The Burden of Freedom. And that book stuck with me for a very long time. And he said this book was dedicated to African leaders. That slavery is cheap. Freedom comes with a burden. And what is this burden that comes with freedom? Responsibility and accountability. And both are missing in most of the third world countries. This is a real
Is it missing in third world countries or missing in leadership in third world countries?
It's not just leadership. It's missing in the third world countries. Because both leaders and followers are not responsible. That's a problem.
I'm not responsible, or I have refused to be responsible.
Well, yes, if you refuse, then it means you don't have it. Because we're always looking for easy way out. And anything that is very cheap don't command value. So the law of value states that for a thing to have increase in value or its valuation, that thing must be short in supply. And this is where the real problem is. We have opportunities around us. And all of us are sitting down crying and looking up to government of the day. You know what that is now? God. Abi? Means government of the day. So our God has become the government of the day. And this is the reason why someone come to the street and say he's hungry and therefore is protesting against government because government has not given them food to eat. In a country where we still have over 50% of arable lands that are not cultivated.
Okay, now you brought the country where we had arable lands that are not cultivated. We have universities of agriculture in all the zones in Nigeria.
Yes.
Some zones have more than one. Okay. why these universities cannot boast of being a production hub?
The university is not meant to be a production hub.
What about farming?
What universities are supposed to do,
Okay.
is to raise practitioners.
Okay, now, the ones that they are raising, who are they attached to?
Oh, this is the issue. This is the real problem.
Let me give you an example.
When I was
in secondary school, we had a school farm that was 10 times the size of the school.
Yes.
And at each point in time, each class had an assignment to go to that school farm.
Yes.
And the school was producing well enough maize that we didn't need to buy outside. Yeah. Secondary school.
Yes, those things were there. We have teachers, they take you to make rigs, plant, teach you Greek inside an agricultural farm.
Teach you how to use a tractor.
So these are like a demonstration farm, depending on the size of your school.
Now,
at that time.
what stops the universities from going beyond what secondary school could do then?
What university can do is to have a demonstration project.
Okay.
And I think that's what is a global practice. What I'm saying is that the function of the university is to train up personnel who has passion in a given discipline,
okay,
and raise them up to solve society problem. Now, what we have found
is your focus on passion in that discipline. Is that
now what we have found in Nigeria today,
okay,
that those who are being admitted into this university, so-called University of Agriculture, they didn't go to the University of Agriculture with the intention to practice. They went into the University of Agriculture with the intention that it doesn't really matter because of the generalist principle of administration that we practice in Nigeria. That you don't need to be a technical person to be a manager anywhere. All you just need is certificate. So you finish from the University of Agric, you go and look for work in one of the commercial bank or one of the microfinance bank, and you start your work. And then your career path start to grow. Now, this is what we have found in our country. People who are frustrated by some governing bodies can't get admission, and they are desperate to go to university to just own a degree, and they can fall into any course of choice, and therefore, you just take them. But when you go to abroad, and this is where my real, I don't know what to call it now, my real major concern is, if you are going to enter into a university in London today, the first thing before your admission is considered is the statement of your purpose, both at undergraduate, at master's level, and even at PhD level, postgraduates. You must have to convince the institution
that you really want
to do that course. Nobody will admit you without the statement of purpose. I get into university in Nigeria, nobody cares about your statement of purpose. Who cares, really? Who evaluates it?
When there is a dean's list, there is a VC's list.
So this is a problem. List. So, okay, they say, okay, you apply to enter computer science, and there's no space in a computer science. They just throw you to statistics. So this award of admission or allocation of admission can help us to get into this point, because what you're supposed to be doing, if GNC is working in our secondary school, the guardian and counselor in the secondary school is supposed to train their part, to discover their passion, and see where they need to be trained.
Okay.
But unfortunately, these are failed in both secondary school and at the university, because we really do not understand, and I stand by that word, the purpose for education.
Okay, now, before we now start looking at purpose of education, now, if you were born and you were coming from heaven and the angel told you, hey, Chuks, when you get to university in Nigeria, you are going to study mechanical engineering. And I happen to get into that university, this particular, as it is right now, and study that same mechanical engineering with all my passion. I will still come out and I don't know where the clutch is in a car.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
Can I ask you, why do we have professors in schools that study automobile and they are going to mechanic to go fix their cars?
I can tell you that.
Okay.
You see, it's part of the politics of our society. You know, Abraham Lincoln says, politics can get the best of society.
So can you define this politics in our society
that
as it concerns
if
education
the best,
without
if the best were there,
skill?
That corporate bodies will hire them. Because politics only hire mediocres.
So okay, are you telling me that politics within the school
is a general societal problem?
So it has crept into the
yes, because even the school themselves don't have power to hire. The governor send the list, the minister of education, the president, senate president, everybody send the list of who to employ. Okay. And even the lecturers themselves also have their own list. And therefore, they also prepare those who they want to succeed them. So this politicking will not allow the very best to remain within the system. So this is a fundamental problem.
Okay, now we know a lot of the problem, know a lot of the issues. Now let's start bringing this home. What can you say on how our universities, College of Educations, can go back to the real issue and start producing graduates that have skill, not just a certificate?
You know, Ray Dalio in his work say before prosperity, you invest heavily in education. And then that will generate the productivity that society needs. And that productivity is what will translate into prosperity. So that's the second. Mediocre cannot drive productivity. This is the issue. Now, if we sit down to Israel, our school system, let me give you a typical work day of a Nigerian professor. He teaches in the undergraduates, exam and grade them, teaches at the postgraduate, master's program, PhD programs, teach, examine and grade them. They have all manners of irregular courses in school. Some they call distant learnings and the rest of it. He teach them, grade, mark them. They become visiting professors to other universities, grade and mark final year students. And they are also taking employment in private universities as visiting professor. Now you tell me, what good work can that professor produce?
So at this point in time, are you saying that the school system is irredeemable?
It's rotten.
So what can we do?
What we can do is the overhaul of the system. Like they are doing elsewhere. If you are teaching undergraduate, you remain with your undergraduate. It's one course they give you, go and research that course. And that's what we are earning money for. Not deal at postgraduate school. Tomorrow you are in the Senate. Next tomorrow you are in the undergraduate. Next tomorrow you are in the other university doing visiting lecturing. Now how do you train your children?
So wherever you are, specialize there.
Specialize in one area and produce good quality products that can transition to the next thing. Now because you have so many things to take about, and of course don't also forget the fact that the university are also over-recruiting students. That in a class we are having over 250 students taught by one professor, and is going to read their script and mark it. How effective can that be? So this is the challenge. What we are producing can match anything, anywhere.
Okay,
And the only way it matches is where you have people who actually had passion, and they grew up as a child, and they grew into particular discipline, and they said to themselves, this is what I want to do. And they will be doing their own independent studies and research.
Aside what is getting from
Aside what they are,
school.
the malnourishment that is coming from the school.
Okay, now let's look at it from this other side. If you want to work a problem, you face a problem. Now let's work it from the solution. Is it possible for us to start seeing clusters, industries, get into connection with schools?
Yeah, I think it's possible. If you go to Rwanda today,
how can that happen?
if you go to Rwanda today, they have overhauled completely the education system. And how did Paul Kagame achieve this? Anywhere in the world, Paul Kagame saw a Rwanda who was knowledgeable. He brings him to one single university in Rwanda. There's only one university in Rwanda, the University of Rwanda, but they have colleges in different locations to fit into. Just we are having, you are here. No, one single university, they issue one same certificate for Rwanda. Now, what has it done? The University of Rwanda, they call it the Rwanda Innovation City, where the town means the gown. Banks are there, industries are there, and then the universities are located within that innovation city. So what they are teaching you in class, you go to the factories to see it. And if you have an idea, you have a bank there to fund it.
Okay.
That's happening in Rwanda as we speak. And I think this is what we need. So the money, the technical know-how, and the theoretical background find themselves in one space. They call it the Rwanda Innovation City. And a whole lot of things are happening in that city.
This is more like what other African countries can copy.
Oh yes, it's a model that can work anywhere. And anywhere you have seen this happen, take for example, ask your friend who go to do masters, for example, in engineering or anything in Germany. You have 6 months project with a company in that particular discipline. You have to create the model for the company to reproduce before you can graduate. Okay. It's not this long essay we are doing here.
Okay. We want to say thank you very much. This discussion, this conversation is not going to end here. It's definitely going to continue. If Rwanda can achieve it, and if every of the, let me say in quotes, big boys that send their children out of this country to go school, and you know it happened well there, and they do it well there, why have you not thought of doing the same here? Do we like our environment, our region, the way it is? We need to start looking ourselves in the face and telling ourselves the truth. Our universities need to start producing graduates that are not just industry ready, but have the skill to compete anywhere. Graduates that will wake up and know that I can be the one to create the job, not looking for it. We need to start seeing that happen. We need to start seeing Africa move forward. We need to start seeing that conversation on the front burner, on a regular. And we also need to start seeing government policies come down strong on universities that are not performing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You see, it's supervision. It's supervision. You see, whatever gets supervised gets done. When supervision and regulations are weak, then you cannot. Take, for example, if you just look at the Nigerian university system, you see, even in terms of accreditation, NUC accredited universities without lecturers.
Okay. On this
it's
note,
a big problem.
On this note, we, just like I said, this conversation is not going to end here. I want to say thank you very much for staying, tuning in, logging in, and always being our guest. I want to say thank you very much, Dr. Idahosa. It's always a pleasure having you. My name is John-Rogers Chuks, and remember, you can always share our content, go continue this conversation on our social media channels and all our pages, and we will reply you. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m. Thank you very much.